Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about a Nigerian crime and romance movie. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe to help the channel out. Our story revolves around the life of Tamide, a married man who is accused of killing his lover. In the beginning of the movie, we see Tamide in a less illuminated interrogation room, with two police detectives Odun and Biodun. Tamide tells the officers that he did not commit the crime, but Odun tells him that saying he didn't commit the crime doesn't let him off the hook. Tamide reiterates that he didn't commit the crime, so Odun tells him that the evidences against him proves otherwise. In a flashback scene, we see Tamide with a pistol in his hands, and his girlfriend laying dead beside the bed. The two officers come into the house, then Biodun reads Tamide's rights before taking him into their custody. Back in the interrogation room, Tamide tells the inspectors that what they saw doesn't prove he committed the crime, and that he will not make further statements until he sees his lawyer. The officers gets angry, pins him down, telling him that he has no rights in this case. The lady he murdered is the only daughter of a serving judge, and that no lawyer would be willing to defend him in such a case. Tamide then registers that he is in more of a mess than he thought, so the officers turn on the camera for him to make his statement. In a flashback, we see Tamide in a business meeting with his bygone business partner Mr. Thomas. Thomas invested in a startup being managed by Tamide, but pulled out only days after signing the deal. He's asking Tamide to refund him his capital, but Tamide tells Thomas to give him some time, because the business is yet to yield any profit. While they are still talking, Helen interrupts their conversation, then she tells Thomas that he cannot get his funds until the business starts yielding profit. Thomas asks her who she is, so she says she is Tamide's attorney. Thomas berates Tamide for getting a lawyer involved in their business dealing, but Helen tells him that she's not present to escalate the issue, and that no court will find Tamide guilty because their business dealing was made under an agreement. Seeing that things are not going his way, Thomas angrily storms of the meeting. Tamide asks Helen who she is, then we realize that she isn't his lawyer. He tells her that he has a lawyer who failed to show up for the meeting, but she is certainly not him. Helen gives him an awkward stare, and then she rhetorically tells him you're welcome before going out of the restaurant. Tamide follows her to the parking lot, and then apologizes for the way he spoke to her back in the restaurant. Days later, we see Tamide having lunch in his house with Helen and his wife Ariana also there. They are having a celebratory meal for winning the case against Thomas. While they are chatting, Helen makes complimentary remarks about Ariana's cooking skills, but she in turn says that Tamide is a much better cook than she is. They all laugh over it before sharing a toast to their victory. After the meal, we see Tamide seeing Helen off to her car. He appreciates her for winning the case against Thomas, and then she in turn thanks him for inviting her to his home. When Tamide gets into the house, we see that Ariana has been watching them through the window. She tells Tamide that Helen is attracted to him, but he laughs it off and tells her that they are just friends for legal purposes, and nothing more. Ariana reiterates that she's not stupid, but Tamide assures her that there's nothing going on between them. While at work the next day, Helen shows up at Tamide's office. Tamide asks her the reason she is in his office, but she tells him she doesn't know. He tells her that Ariana thinks that she's attracted to him, so Helen eventually admits to having a thing for Tamide. They both involve in a stare down, and then we see them in Helen's house getting intimate. Back in the interrogation room, Odun is told that Tamide's wife is in her office. When she gets there, Ariana asks her why her husband is being questioned without the presence of his lawyer, but Odun tells her that he was the one who opted to be interrogated without his lawyer. Ariana says she knows her husband, and that he must have demanded for his lawyer. Odun asks her if she knew her husband was having an affair outside their marriage, but this revelation surprises Ariana, who becomes speechless in shock. When the second officer comes in, Odun asks him to take Ariana to her husband, and that she has only 2 minutes to speak to him. When she gets there, she asks Tamide if he was having an affair with Helen. He says yes, but this only earns him a slap from her. Tamide apologizes for what he has done, so Ariana tells him that he shouldn't say anything more until their lawyer gets into the case. Odun comes in and tells Ariana her time is up, then she tells Tamide that he can decide not to say anything more until he sees his lawyer. Tamide opts to continue narrating his side of the story, then Odun permits him to go ahead. Back in our flashback, we are shown a montage of Tamide with his family, and also with him having an affair with Helen. While in Helen's house one day, Tamide receives a call that his first daughter has just died from an ailment. This in turn sends Tamide and his wife into a state of mourning in the preceding weeks. While heading back home one day, Helen approaches Tamide to console him for the loss of his daughter, but Tamide tells her to leave him alone, and that their relationship contributed to the death of his daughter. Helen tells him that the past few weeks has been hell for her, and that she is what he needs to heal from the death of his daughter. Tamide screams profanities at her, telling her to leave him to mourn his daughter in peace. Later that day, we see Tamid knocking on Helen's door. She takes him in and they both get intimate. When Tamid gets home, he tells his wife that he will be going on a business trip for a week, and then we see him leaving with his luggage the next morning. He gets to Helen's apartment and they both slept together in the house, until he woke up to see her dead with a gun also on the bed. Back in the interrogation room, Biodun asks Tamid if Helen had any squabble with someone that would have resulted in her murder. Tamid says he doesn't know if she had, and that Helen never told him she had problems with anyone. Later on, we see Helen's father Mr. Cole in O'Doon's office. He asks her when Tamid will be charged to court, and then she says he will be charged to court when they are done with their investigation. O'Doon asks him if he knows of anyone who would want to harm his daughter, but he says he has no knowledge of such. He says his enemies would want to hurt him directly, but not his daughter. Biodun asks if he suspects anyone from his family, so he brings up the name of his estranged lover who is Helen's biological mom. She's eventually brought to the station and interrogated over the death of Helen. Through their conversation, we realize that she was once in an extramarital relationship with Mr. Cole, but they both parted ways when she got pregnant with Helen. When Mr. Cole's wife found out about their relationship, so she was paid off by the couple, and then told never to come near Helen or any member of the family. The police eventually lets her go when they see that there is no evidence against her. Later on, O'Doon gets an idea when listening to Tamid's confession. They bring Tamid out from his cell and asks him if he would have any reason to suspect his wife. He says he loves his wife, and that she'll never do such a thing to him. They again ask him if he contacted Ariana before he was arrested. He says no. Then the officers get suspicious, because Ariana showed up at the station even when she was not invited. They get to her house and ask her how she knew about her husband's arrest, and then she struggles for words, before telling them that she got a call from an officer. The inspectors sees through her and eventually realize she's lying. They arrest her and take her in for interrogation. After a few hours of denying the crime, she eventually gives in and confesses her side of the story. She followed Tamid while he was leaving for his supposed trip, and then sees him in Helen's house, proving that he was cheating on her. Later that night, she comes to Helen's house with the intention of threatening Helen and her husband, only to discover that someone else has already killed Helen while in her sleep. The officers go back to the office to deliberate on the issue, and then O'Doon says there's something more she's not saying, but Biodun opines that there's nothing more Ariana could be possibly hiding from them. O'Doon insists that Ariana hasn't said all she knows, and then she goes back to interrogate Ariana. After threatening Ariana with the possibility of not being able to see her kids again, she eventually gives in and tells the officers what she has been holding in. She tells them that she saw Thomas leaving the house when she tried to sneak in, and that he was the one who committed the crime. In the concluding scene, Thomas is eventually arrested and charged with the murder of Helen. Moral of the story: cheating on your partner can get you in a lot of trouble. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to help us out. Also, check out our channel for more interesting African stories.